Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. I'm really glad you're joining me today because we are unpacking a truly fascinating business prospectus for a venture called Groceries to Go. Now, this isn't just your standard run-of-the-mill business plan. It's honestly a masterclass in structural innovation. We're looking at a specialty grocery model that basically hacks the absolute hardest part of the entire retail sector. So let's just dive right into this.
To really understand why this model is so brilliant, we first have to tackle the giant elephant in the room. It's the fundamental question that haunts pretty much every single new retail business trying to get off the ground. Why do most of them fail? Is it bad products? Terrible locations? Maybe the owner's weird cousin running the cash register? Well, okay, sometimes. But the most common killer? It's actually hidden right there in the math.
And this is the undeniable core problem. Simply put, buying customers is way more expensive than buying inventory. In traditional retail economics, you can honestly have the absolute best products in the world. But if you have to spend, say, $2 to $3 million on marketing just to get people through the front door, your margins are instantly crushed. The document we're looking at today solves this exact problem by completely rewiring how a store acquires its shoppers from day one. So here is our roadmap for today. We'll cover the grocery market gap, flipping customer acquisition, the 3 structural pillars, the financial engine, target investor profiles, and finally wrap up with the replicable retail future. Let's get to it. Starting with Section 1, the grocery market gap, also known as the Goldilocks problem of specialty foods. So what exactly is the problem Groceries to Go is trying to solve for the consumer? It really boils down to a stark contrast in the current landscape. On one hand, you've got your mainstream supermarkets. Sure, they have immense scale, super convenience, and massive purchasing power, but they severely lack cultural authenticity and true specialization. Then, on the other hand, you have independent grocerists. These guys are totally authentic, they carry the right niche products, and they deeply know their local community. But they usually lack the capital, the modern digital inventory systems, and the sheer scale to truly consolidate a household's entire grocery spending. Because of this, customers are forced to split their shopping trips across multiple stores. Groceries to Go aims to sit perfectly in the middle, bringing massive scale and capital directly to authentic, specialty goods. Moving into Section 2, flipping customer acquisition. This is really the aha moment of the G2G model. And that brings us to what I consider the absolute genius of this entire prospectus. I want you to focus on this number right here, 1,000. Just imagine opening a brand new massive grocery store, unlocking the front doors on your very first day, and knowing with absolute 100% certainty that you already have 1,000 highly loyal paying customers. And the kicker? You achieved this without spending a single dollar on Facebook ads, billboards, or any traditional marketing. Sounds crazy, right? Well, they pull this off through what they call an inverted customer acquisition model. Instead of doing it the old way, raising capital from investors and then blowing that capital hunting for customers, the business essentially builds its customer base directly into its capital raising phase. The investors and the customers are structurally tied together from the very beginning. Let's break down the math because it is beautifully simple and totally undeniable. Groceries to Go is raising capital from 50 foundation shareholders. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. To be a shareholder, you don't just write a check and walk away. You contractually commit to recruiting 20 paying members from your own personal network, your friends, your family, work colleagues, people in your community. So 50 shareholders times 20 members equals 1,000 guaranteed day one customers. Based on typical household spending, this incredibly simple mechanic mathematically locks in an estimated year one revenue of somewhere between $7.3 and $14.6 million. I mean, it is just utterly brilliant. Section 3, the 3 structural pillars. This is all about making the model actually work. Okay, so now that they have the customers, how do they actually operate the store to make sure it's highly profitable? Well, the first pillar is all about supply chain compression. Check out this process. Step 1. They establish direct relationships with producers in places like Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, and South Asia. Step 2, their own internal operations team completely handles the importing and logistics. And Step 3, the products go straight onto the Groceries to Go retail shelves. By completely bypassing the bloated traditional supply chain, skipping the regional distributors and the local wholesalers, they immediately save 15 to 20% on imported specialty goods. This lets them offer hyper-competitive pricing while still keeping a really healthy margin. The second and third pillars, they revolve heavily around loyalty and promotion. Remember those 1,000 recruited members? Well, they pay a $100 annual membership fee. Right off the bat, this generates $100,000 in high-margin recurring revenue. But honestly, more importantly, it creates psychological lock-in. Think about it. If you pay to be a member somewhere, you're going to want to get your money's worth. With families spending around $400 to $600 weekly on groceries, which, let's be real, feels like it buys less and less every single year, Groceries to Go targets capturing 30 to 40% of that spend. The built-in discounts mean the membership pays for itself in just a month or two. And because the shareholders' financial returns are directly tied to how much the recruited members are actually spending, those 50 investors effectively act as a permanent, unpaid, and highly motivated promotional engine for the store.
Section 4. The financial engine. Let's look at slicing the profits and gamifying ownership. So the business is bringing in robust revenue, and they're saving a ton on the supply chain. But how does that money actually flow back to the community? Groceries to Go projects a fairly conservative gross profit margin of 20%. But notice how they slice up the net profit here. They don't just hand it all over to the single biggest investor. No, 40% is distributed equally among all 50 shareholders. This ensures everybody gets a baseline return, creating a really nice safety net. 20% pays the logistics team. But look closely at Slice 3, a 15% performance-based payout. This gets distributed proportionally based on how much revenue your specific group of recruited members generated, so it heavily rewards active recruitment and engagement. They even dedicate 10% to a customer reward, literally gamifying the shopping experience by rewarding the top spending member every year. When you run the math on this, even in a conservative scenario, this financial engine generates a projected 29% first-year return on investment for a single $30,000 unit. That's roughly $8,800 back into your pocket in year one, and that's not even counting the equity appreciation of the underlying business itself. It makes this a seriously attractive financial proposition. On to Section 5, Target Investor Profiles. Who exactly funds this structural revolution? So who is Groceries to Go actually looking for to fill these 50 shareholder spots during their 6-month capital raise? The prospectus smartly targets 4 distinct archetypes within the community. First, you have the community anchor, who is motivated by ethical, values-aligned returns. Then you have the diaspora entrepreneur, someone looking to diversify into a culturally familiar, cash-generating asset. Next is the returning investor, who already knows and trusts the founder's track record. And finally, you've got the lifestyle customer. This is maybe an affluent shopper who views a $30,000 investment as a clever way to gain tangible household benefits, heavy discounts, and a true voice in their community's food supply. By diversifying the investor base like this, they embed the store incredibly deep into the social fabric of the city. Now, of course, we all know retail is risky, but the document tackles these risks head-on. Worried about competition from massive supermarkets? That's mitigated by the fact that those huge chains just can't match their authentic curation, and they definitely lack the community ownership that locks in loyalty. What about customer acquisition risks? Completely neutralized by those upfront membership fees and the 40% equal share safety net we talked about. Supply chain issues and currency shocks, they handle that through diverse multi-region sourcing and forward contracts. And physical waste is kept to an absolute minimum by using highly sophisticated point-of-sale tracking and dynamic pricing. Literally, every traditional retail trap has a structural mitigation built right into the model. Finally, Section 6, the replicable retail future, scaling the Perth proof of concept. While this specific prospectus is just for a single store, the macroeconomic potential of this model is, frankly, massive. Just look at the runway for growth within their launch city of Perth, Australia alone. Their year one target is 1,000 households. Over 3 to 5 years, they want to bump that up to between 3,000 and 5,000. But look at the total addressable market out there. Conservative estimates show there are 400,000 to 500,000 households in the region with an affinity for halal and international groceries. Their day one target is literally a fraction of a percent of the total market. The upside here is just staggering. And all of this circles right back to the core thesis of the entire document. What if you started with a capital base, and that capital base was also your customer base? It perfectly aligns everyone's incentives. When the exact same people funding the store are the ones shopping at the store and actively recruiting their friends to shop there too, everybody wins. It completely rewrites the rules of engagement for consumer staples. The Groceries to Go model proves that you absolutely do not need hundreds of millions of dollars to take on massive retail conglomerates. You really just need a structured community, aligned incentives, and a very smart operational blueprint. So I'll leave you with this. If this inverted customer acquisition model successfully scales in Perth, could this exact blueprint be used to disrupt the grocery monopolies in your city next? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.